Legends of the Nexus, Cosmos, the Holy Crusade. Planet Rune had experienced a great deal of change throughout a couple of short years. The arrival of the immortal Braves, warriors who could fall in battle and be revived moments later, had shifted the natural order. While hardly the most powerful of combatants in the world, the immortal Braves demonstrated enhanced growth potential when compared with the local population. The planet itself was one of magic and magitech technologies. Lack of scientific advancement had locked the world into the terrestrial grade, below the interstellar and galaxy grades. This limitation had restricted the people of Rune from engaging in galactic civilization. At least, that was until a unique event took place in the world. An enigma had arisen from among the hated Red Sect faction, one that broke the established order and employed the immortal Braves in incomprehensible ways. She looked out from the temple of the Red Sect on the forum far below. The red dust of the soil painted the entire scene the color of rust. What she saw wasn't a surprise. Cole Luna wasn't at the spot that once had been his own. The bastard had left as soon as the faction wars had ended. Never had she let an acolyte act as he had acted. To tame the immortal Braves into his own fighting force was an achievement that none could have anticipated. To uncover the deepest secrets of the Red Sect, revealing new sites of pilgrimage in the tombs of the kings of corruption, defied all logic that she knew. And Cole Luna's use of the Immortals to control her battlefield during the wars was something she still had difficulty coming to terms with. But most of all, the holy daughter of the Red Sect regretted allowing the not-so-humble acolyte to leave with the Immortals. In truth, she should have just killed him. Every acolyte of the Red Sect is initiated with the forced possession of a demon, most of which are mundane entities with moderate fighting potential. What the Holy Daughter thought of as a demon within Cole Luna was something else, something that, as the man himself said, was tied to fate. Fate is the realm of the gods, of which none other than her crimson god can be accepted. He had denied it. But Cole Luna's comprehension of events and intricate understanding of engraving and enchanting made the Holy Daughter question, even now, her decision to let him go. Cole Luna's efforts on the battlefield, or rather behind the battlefield, during the faction wars had softened the Holy Daughter's wrath. By all rights, the faction wars should have ended much differently than they had. Hated as they were, the other dozen nations involved never would have aligned so completely against any one faction. And yet, they all put their enmities aside and besieged the sanctuaries held by the Red Sect. This should have ended them. Rather, Cole Luna began arming and armoring the immortal Braves who had aligned with the Red Sect. Powerful equipment and uncanny blood inscription scrolls had desolated the siege tactics of the Trade Union, Arclight Kingdom, Republic of Creston, and the rest. Across the sanctuaries and resource nodes throughout the planet, devastation was wrought. The Everash Forest truly earned its name from the firestorms generated by Cole's inscriptions. In the overwhelming victory over the allied nations, a change had come upon the world of Rune. The Crimson God's champions had gained supremacy across the world governments. A subtle shift had come over the world. The eyes of commoners throughout the world, whether within Red Sect territory or without, carried an unseen crimson light in their eyes. The cult took advantage of its military superiority and sent out missionaries to spread the will of their god. And the blood sacrifices the Crimson God demanded began to flow like rivers across a world fallen from the light. The Holy Daughter often could be seen with a subtle smile on her face during these early days. The light of fanaticism in her eyes was matched by the red priests and priestesses that surrounded her. As the eminent world leader, the Holy Daughter was privy to much secret information. What did you just say? The red priest before her on her white throne gulped. I said, Your Excellency, Cole Luna has left Rune with a cadre of immortal Braves. The Holy Daughter didn't know what to make of his words. Rune wasn't an interstellar world. It didn't have the means to build starships. "Tell me everything," the Holy Daughter said very calmly. The Red Priest sighed and began to recount his report. The Holy Daughter listened patiently, but could feel herself growing anxious. He'd done it again. He'd left. Somehow, the former acolyte, a peasant of the Arclight Kingdom, had summoned a great ship that he used to escape her yet again. "That's enough," she said, dismissing the man. The Red Priest bowed and departed while the Holy Daughter pondered. Not only did Cole Luna not place her or her sect in his eyes, he didn't even put her world in his sight. It didn't sting as much as it had the first time. Now, the Holy Daughter felt numb. Was everything that she was achieving so small? Had she set her eyes too low? A scowl claimed her beautiful features, if that's the case. The Holy Daughter stood up from her white throne. She exited her throne room and descended into the bowels of the temple and found herself before a shiny black statue of a human form. It was the effigy of her god. She stood before the statue of the Crimson God and opened her mind and spirit to the intrusion of the divine. Her lips curled with discomfort, while the red light in her eyes grew into tendrils of energy that joined with the energy of the effigy. She stood in pained meditation for some time, experiencing the will of her God as a tempest of thought and emotion. Before coming to the 4 tombs of the kings of corruption and receiving the blessings of her God, she was incapable of hearing the Crimson God so clearly. One word stuck out in her mind, a word that even from a god sounded desperate. Follow. As the light faded from her eyes and the pain subsided, the Holy Daughter stood before the statue of her God in silence. It was something that she hadn't even considered, nor could she understand how she was supposed to follow someone who had left the planet. And yet, her lips. She might be able to wrap her fingers around Cole Luna's throat once more. She shook her head. The Red Sect wasn't even involved in Magitech. All it had were its demons. But then, the realm of demons is far more intricate than the layman might believe. The Holy Daughter left the effigy and returned to her place in her throne room. A council was called for of the Red Priests and Priestesses. "Your Excellency," an elderly priestess said, "we are all here. May we know what you have called us all here for?" The Holy Daughter stood by the window, looking down on the spot where Cole Luna once plied his trade. "I have received a message from our God," she said. "Our Crimson God is no longer satisfied by this planet." Despair flashed through the eyes of the gathered priests and priestesses. "Your Excellency, surely." The Holy Daughter raised her hand to silence the gathering. "The Crimson God is not dissatisfied with our service. Rather, the Crimson God has deemed this the time for us, as his servants, to begin our holy crusade. We will begin our ascension by invading the twisting nether." The looks on the faces of the gathered priests and priestesses were vacant for a moment before a number called out their terror. "Silence!" the Holy Daughter commanded. The priests and priestesses straightened up, and the dissenting voices were silenced. "This is my will. This is the will of the Crimson God, and you will perform your duties to our God. Is that understood?" Many nodded eagerly, some even smiling in anticipation. The rest begrudgingly consented. The Holy Daughter takes her seat on her white throne and looks out at the gathering. "Prepare for the invasion. We begin soon." With that said, the Holy Daughter waved her hand and watched the red-robed priests and priestesses depart. In her mind, the woman thought about how nice it would feel to watch terror come to Cole Luna's eyes once more.